Hi, everybody. Welcome to Mark's Backyard Birds, a family focus edition today. I originally called this uh, just thrushes. Well, I thought that'd be a little too misleading because bluebirds are thrushes, robins are thrushes, solitaires are thrushes. But what I wanted to do for this program is to talk about what I call the brown thrushes, because those are the ones that are trickier to separate and they are often overlooked. So let's get on to it. Who are the brown thrushes? First off, a group of small to medium size forest thrushes. Most of them, they spend their lives mainly in the leaf litter and digging under, looking for insects and worms under the leaf litter in the forest. So they're easily overlooked. And of course, if you're going to spend most of your time there, brown is a really good color for you to be. So they are easily overlooked because of that great camouflage. And all the ones we're going to talk about are a variation of brown. They can be a kind of a cinnamon brown, a gray brown, a rich brown, a dull brown. So, but they all have different varying degrees of spots on their chest and possibly overwash on it. And of course, their facials. But what the thing is that's most unique about them, I think, and beautiful are their songs. So we're going to talk about that and play songs for each one of you. This is a Veery. This is one of the members of the group, and we'll get to him in more detail later. But that is the overview of the thrush group. The first thrush I wanted to talk about is the hermit thrush. Why the hermit thrush? Why did I start with that? Well, technically it is the most widespread of the thrushes, and it nests in lots of areas in North America, mainly higher elevations, but they also winter across the southern U.S., which is unusual for the thrushes as a whole. All the rest of them we're going to talk about winter in Central and South America, whereas this thrush hangs around here in our area in Kansas City. We can see them in the winter months, and when we find them in winter, one of the things we know is that they're really the only one of the brown thrushes that actually winters here. So it's a pretty easy idea. Now that doesn't mean something else can't turn up, but it is extremely rare for any of the other ones to. But you look at this bird and you see brown back, kind of a russet brown back. Shack, that's a brown thrush. But this one has a rusty red tail. And that's something, if you get it turns and looks at you right, and you get a picture, you know that is a hermit thrush. And it has pretty dark spots on its chest. Now, one of the things I remember most about this bird for me personally is being out in the Western U.S., actually in the redwood forest, and hearing their songs cascade down through the trees. And it's just beautiful. Like I said, these thrushes mainly have flute-like songs, and they are beautiful. And let me play that song for you because it's something that if you've never heard it before, you really will be rewarded when you do get to hear it. Here's the hermit thrush. I've heard people call it haunting. I've heard it called many, obviously flute-like and something melancholy. I've heard many words to describe the hermit thrush song. I call it beautiful. It's one of my favorite bird songs. But we don't get to hear it that much here in the Midwest because, like I said, they overwinter. They're not singing in winter. And in the spring, they may start singing before they leave, but we don't get to hear it as much as we do some of these other ones. So you guys that live out in the West, especially up in the mountains in the West, big forest, you have a really good shot of hearing. And people in the Northeast, way up in Maine and those areas, you get to hear that song in the summer. And like I said, they're not that easy to find because they're so well camouflaged, but you listen for them singing in the spring months and breeding season, you might be able to zero in on them. Okay, next up is the Swainson's thrush. Now, for us in the Midwest, this thrush is the more common migrator through our area. Some years we have lots of them. It kind of depends on wind patterns and things like that during spring migration. But these are pretty common sights on our spring bird hikes when we're in woodlands. Again, they are woodland thrushes, and that's where they nest and everything. And but here they're passing through, and you can see that range map. They nest much further to the north, and they're again the same brown back, maybe a little lighter brown back than some of the others. And there's two distinct colors. The ones out west are more russet colored backs, and the ones in the eastern U.S. are more olive colored backs in them, but they're the same bird. And they all have a buffy eye ring. That's what we look for whenever we're in our spring bird hikes. If we're not hearing them and we see them hopping around, the first thing I look for when I put my glasses on them is I look to see if it's got that buffy eye ring, because that is a really good distinguishing mark. The bird that's more easily confused is the next one I'm going to talk about, which is a gray-cheeked thrush, and we'll see the difference without that buffy eye ring. And a little bit the back color is a bit different as well, but they're blurry spots on their chest, and it kind of may look like they have a little bit of an overwash, but their song is gorgeous. And one of the things we key in on when we're bird watching in the spring is their call. So I'm going to play the Swainson thrush song and call. Remember, I use the Sibley Birds app for my songs, and these come from the Cornell Lab of Ornithology. I want to make sure I plug that in there. Great app. If you've not downloaded that, it's really, really worth it. Another of the beautiful thrush songs. Let's see. Let's go. Hear that ascending. Another beautiful thrush song, and look forward to hearing that every spring in our woodlands. And like I said, any pretty good sized tracts of timber that we take a bird hike in our area, we're during the migration season, we usually hear that. Some years, if the prevailing winds were kind of out of the southwest, it can push more to the east. But in typical springs, they're good numbers, and they're hopping around on the trails in front of us in the woodlands. And here's the sound that we really look forward to hearing, because it is, to us, it sounds like a water drop type sound. Is that boink, boink is what it sounds like to me, boink, and that alerts us to their presence and really start looking. And again, being so camouflaged, you have to get your glasses on them when they hop up on an exposed limb like these, because they will be down in the leaf litter. And they nest much further to the north and some high elevations out to the west. And I understand that because their nest quite often are up in the trees, higher up in the elevations than some of the other ones. I remember one year at Burr Oak Woods, where I was working years ago, and when I first moved to Missouri, I watched a Swainson thrush building a nest in the spring. And of course, being new to the Kansas City area, I had no idea. And I called a friend and said, "Do Swainson thrushes nest here?" I don't think they should. And he was really, really interested in that. He was the curator of birds at the KU Museum, and we kind of described it and everything. But they worked on it for like 2 or 3 days, and then they were gone. They didn't, of course, they kept migrating after that. But I thought that was really, really interesting. And their look-alike for us on spring migration is the gray-cheeked thrush. The gray-cheeked thrush is a much duller bird than the Swainson thrush is, and it doesn't have that buffy eye ring. It have a light eye ring, but not that buffy, less noticeable one than the Swainson thrush. And again, has the kind of the blurry spots on its chest, and they are far less numerous for us in migration than the. And part of it is I think they're a little more secretive than the Swainson thrush, but you can see their map where they move through, migrate through the eastern United States. They nest much further north latitude wise than a lot of the other thrushes. So they're pretty small and hop around. We're lucky if we can get one out in the open, but again, their song is unique. And when we talked about the Swainson thrush ascending, well, the gray cheeks kind of start that way and then they go down. So let's listen to the gray-cheeked thrush. So a little more statico at the start, and then the flute-like part of it, and their call is definitely different than the water drop. That again, and for us in migration, they sing some, but not a lot. They do more of the calls, and so we have to be alert for that. And that's more of a thicker rip type sound, that call to the gray-cheeked thrush. Now, back in 1995, they split the Bicknell's thrush off from the Gray-cheeked Thrush. And this range map shows you just how narrow that bird's population is, and it is almost identical to the Gray-cheeked Thrush. And so people that can tell you they can quickly pick out a Bicknell thrush, by looking at it, believe me, that is far more challenging than a lot of people think. Really, to identify them, you have to hear them. Basically, the song, and they are different, they're unique, but you see their limited range. And they winter down in parts of Cuba and part of the Dominica down there, Dominican Republic area, but they nest at high mountains, high elevations up in the Northeast, and Maine and New Hampshire and Vermont, a little bit in New York, and a little bit, and you have to get way up because they nest kind of at the tops of mountains, and they're really thick, and they're secretive, and they're really hard to find. So if you want to find a Bicknell thrush, you have to make an effort to get there and hear that song, especially at dawn is when they sing the most. But the cover bird, the bird I had at the very first slide was this one, the Veery, and the Veery is again very closely related to those other thrushes, and for us in our area, they're late migrators, and I guess that occurred for most of us in the southern United States, the Midwest, and they migrate later than the Swainsons and the Gray-cheeks, and they're beautiful birds. They don't have the eye ring. They have a bit of a gray face, and they have pretty good dark spots on their chest. A lot of times that chest is overwashed with a faint yellowish color, and they're richly colored on the back. They're again, light makes such a difference when you're looking at the color brown in the woods. In the good light, you're like, oh, that's really kind of real cinnamony, but you see it in the dark, it doesn't look that good. But they really are. And they have a real unique call, and their name Veery comes from their call, which is described as saying veer, 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 veer. So it is, again, the fluty quality. I'm going to play that. That descending is very characteristic of the Veery. And the Veeries tend to be much more low to the ground nesting birds in the mountain ranges. They're lower down, and you tend to find them there. Hermits in the kind of the middle, and then the Swainsons up higher, and the Gray-cheeks I think are a little more mid mountain, mid height range. So they're varied and they're beautiful, and we love the thrushes, and we look forward to them coming through every year. And the reason I timed this for today was, of course, as migration is really starting to kick in, and I thought what I should do, my favorite of all here at the end, toward the end, is this guy, the wood thrush. I think it has the most beautiful song in North America, and I look forward to hearing this every spring. It was my alarm call when I was in college. We had to stay in the woods doing wildlife research work for 6 weeks in college, and we had open air cabins, and this bird would wake me up every morning from the cabin, because they were, like I said, open air cabins. And I want to play that for you. I'm sorry, but my book is the most beautiful bird song in North America, and I love them. They are richer in color on their back, more cinnamony, bright color, and they have dark spots on their chest against a whiter belly and chest than the others. The others are more not stark white on their bellies, whereas the wood thrush has that higher contrast because of the darker spots on the lighter belly and the lighter chest. So they are a bird that's in precipitous decline, unfortunately. And part of the reason is us, of course, and that is by clearing forest habitat that we have since settlement. We have allowed cowbirds to parasitize these birds' nests terribly. There are areas where especially in the Midwest, patches of woods that are much smaller, and wood thrush go in there to nest. And documentation shows that almost every single nest has at least one cowbird egg in it, and they rarely raise their own young, and they're called, sinks. because from areas where big woods, like in the Ozarks, where there's a lot of breeding wood thrushes, well, they move out. The young have to move out, and they move into these smaller patches of woods, and they fall victim to the cowbirds, which is really sad. But they are, like I said, they are in declines. But hopefully conservation efforts can help them. We just need bigger, more intact tracts of timber, and we all know the story of the cowbird, and I put a link in the video about that, what's happening there. But the wood thrush, it's not as closely related to the other brown thrushes, but it's still my book of brown thrush, and so they're in that same group. I look forward to them every year. Now, one thing I thought I should do here at the end, of course, is give you a couple of birds that you could quite often get confused as thrushes. This is a brown thrasher. Much larger bill, much longer tail, but I can see why people would think that that's the back color and the stripes on the chest. A lot of that people will try to put them in that group of birds, and they have a yellow iris, which is the other thing you can see. That separates them out and makes you know that they're not one of the brown thrushes I'm referring to here. Another one, especially in winter, when it comes to like the hermit thrush, a lot of people confuse fox sparrows, because fox sparrows are big sparrows and hermit thrushes are not very big thrushes, so they overlap in size, and fox sparrows tend to be real reddish in color. So that's a bird you can certainly confuse on first glance. And like I said, yes, I know the robin group are members of the thrush, and we'll do their own program on them, but we are talking about the brown thrushes. And that, I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you learned something, and hope you're better prepared for spring migration when they're moving through your area. They don't come to feeders, not very often. The best way you can help them is landscaping with native berries and insects, of course, on native plants. But they will come to water. I've had hermit thrushes at my bird baths. I've had Swainson thrushes at my bird baths, and I'm sure Gray-cheeked might have visited too. I just never have caught it on there. So great group of birds. If you like the program, please give us a like and a share. If you want me to focus on some other groups of birds, send it in. I'd love to put something together for you. So if you like the program, please give it a like, give it a share. And if you haven't subscribed yet, please hit that subscribe button, and don't forget to ring the bell so you get notifications when I'm on next. Until next time, let's talk birds.